I was kind of uh, dealing with the feelings that I have make myself avoid for so long because I kind of didn't allow myself to feel that sadness because I felt I need to hold the front until everything is fine. And then I will allow myself to be. I thought now I have hopefully learned with that process that I can do my process at the same time.
Welcome to What Was, What Next. This is a podcast about the seasons of change that shape our lives. I'm Hina Thacker, and in each episode, I sit down with someone who has stepped away from what once was, be it a career, a role, a relationship, an identity, and is now finding their way through the uncertain space of what comes next. These are not stories of perfect reinvention. They're honest conversations about the in-between seasons, the moments when the old life no longer fits and the new one hasn't fully formed. If you're navigating a transition of your own, you're not alone here. There are many of us who have navigated through those same waters. So let's begin the conversation for today. Today, I'm speaking with someone whose life has moved through different seasons and changes. So what I'm curious about is the season that she finds herself in right now. So I want to introduce all of you to Marcela. And Marcela, rather than me go through a bio that I'm reading off a sheet, I would love to invite you to introduce yourself in whatever way you're comfortable with. So please tell us who you are and describe a season of life that you are in right now or where you were in.
Thank you very much, Nina. I am Marcela Heime, and I'm British Colombian. Came to this country many years ago to study and met my ex-husband and stay. And since I come from Colombia, I always have kind of that compulsion to give back because it's a lot of inequalities. So when I moved here, I decided that that was going to be my path. I've been working about more than 15 years in leadership roles in health inequalities. I think if you ask me, it will be very difficult to choose a moment. My life in general has been a movement and a change as it had never been expected. So before I moved to this country, 3 years before that, you have said to me, you are going to move to another country to study English and then stay there or meet someone, I will have said that's crazy. That's not going to happen. I have my life here. I have my job. I did the university. Everything changed when I met my ex-husband and I stayed and decided to live a life here. And then further in time, 15 years or 20 years after that, I was the CEO for a charity in Aylesbury, in Buckinghamshire. Again, my life changed completely. So I was working there. I was going through my divorce at the time, that it was already a big, big change. And I gave myself to this charity that it was in a very difficult situation and make it a success. It took me about 6-7 years to work on that. At that point, Brexit came, and also we lost a lot of funding that we had. The board decided, together we decided that the best decision was to close it and close it in the right way. That it was 6 months of a proper exit plan, moving all the services to different charities, try to tupe all the employees to different employers. But it was emotionally, it was really difficult for me because that was my baby after my divorce. What I did, it was to give myself to that as what I had. So it was my children and my work. And the fact that we were closing that, it didn't come to me until the end. because I was so focused on others, making sure that all the services will move to other charities that were successful and kind of keep that legacy with the community. And also my employees, we were only 50 people in total, but we were kind of 30 people that were all the time working together, and they were a kind of family. We work very closely. I don't know if anyone knows the charity sector. In the charity sector, we are very overworked. So everyone end up doing everything. You have a title, but it's
Yeah.
never what you do. I think that the biggest and the most difficult moment for me was when we closed and I realized that everyone was okay, that it was a success to close the charity, because of course you close the charity and it's a success if all the services can go to other places. But I didn't feel that I was allowed to feel sad and that grief, because it was a success the way we closed it. So I think
Yeah.
that was one of the most difficult moments for me, because I was kind of containing that grief and like, why are you feeling sad if this is what it should have happened? It's like a success story, but of course, personally, it wasn't a success story for me. It was kind of understanding what that means for me as a person. Now that I kind of felt that everyone it was in the right place, and I think that time was a really difficult time. I took my time to not go back immediately to kind of a job or anything like that. I took some time off. I traveled with my mother a little bit, spent a lot of time with my children. But I think what that time gave me, it was the understanding that is that adaptability, that if we don't have those moments, we don't grow, we don't kind of, if we keep on that comfort zone or of, I know my job, I know what I'm doing, this new project, then we kind of don't move in life.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was interested to hear you describe the time afterwards as grief, as a grieving process. And you also said, I had to make sure that everybody else was okay. Um, And that's very interesting to me because, often people who feel a sense of responsibility towards other people first, which is exactly what you described, in that you wanted to make sure that everybody in your organization was okay. And that is what was driving you. Once that time is over, because everything was obviously shifting and people can't see because there's no video to this podcast, but you used your hands as that undulating wave of up and down that was happening as you were describing that time. Talk to us about that grief. What makes you describe it as grief? What were you grieving, if it's okay to ask you that?
Oh, well, I think it was kind of, it was many things, because it was kind of, I wasn't really so worried about the future. I was kind of uh, dealing with the feelings that I have make myself avoid for so long, because I kind of didn't allow myself to feel that sadness, because I felt I need to hold the front until everything is fine. And then I will allow myself to be. I thought, now I have hopefully learned with that process that I can do my process at the same time, that I'm also, the fact that I was the leader, it doesn't mean that everything has to be okay all the time for you. You are also allowed to be sad and to have that emotional time. And I don't think it was the right also message for my body. I mean, I didn't get ill, but I put weight. I stopped doing so much exercise. I might go for a walk, but I lose that motivation on myself. I don't think I will ever allowed to to get myself in that situation. Hopefully again, I will kind of focus on me at the same time that I'm focusing on others, because then it's a very lonely time when you feel everyone is okay and I didn't allow myself, and I am not in a very good shape, kind of mentally and physically.
Yeah. That's such an important insight, isn't it? That actually we almost owe it to ourselves to kind of take care of us at the same time as we're taking care of other people. I mean, they say, everybody knows this when you fly, and they say put your mask on first and then you help other people. It's almost like sometimes people, you work in the charity sector, and people who have that kind of purpose in life to help others, I think sometimes we tend to take a deep breath and hold it rather than kind of putting our oxygen mask on ourselves and think we'll deal with it at the end.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is a perfect example. I was holding my breath the whole time. So and of course, that's not healthy for the body, that's not healthy for the relationships around you. And I didn't have major problems after that. But it did teach me that the fact that you are the leader, it doesn't mean that you cannot also show your human part, and that you need to you can hold the front, but also allow yourself to go through the process.
Yeah. And having come out of that post closing the charity process, I know that you've set up your own business now, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But tell us about that in between phase. Like, what happened in between to where you found yourself, having closed the organization that you'd put your heart and soul into, having made sure that everybody that was part of that was okay, and to this place today where you've set up something different. Can you talk to us a little bit about that in between phase?
Yes, absolutely. So during that time that I gave myself about 3 months to think about what I wanted to do. And I think one of the main things that I very clear was what I didn't want to do. So I'm very attached to the Buckinghamshire area because that's where I came, and it's I even though everyone thinks that we are very wealthy um county, I work with pockets of poverty that are the inequality here is unthinkable sometimes. So I think I was clear that I didn't want to go into a role of a CEO again. I thought there were excellent charities, excellent CEOs to running those charities. So it was kind of finding my place. And part of that situation of what do I want to do, that it really reflects on what in thinking about me. I always wanted to do a master's degree, and I decided that is to be the present to myself. I will find something that I can do part time, but I want to give myself something that is for me at this moment in my life because I can do it. So that was the first decision I took. I registered for the master. I wanted to do something in global public health because I think I have my experience from my country, but I never work in my country in this area, but I have work here. So I wanted to kind of understand how I could mix. So it was more like a self-reflection of, okay, I'm happy to work with others and have a plan, but I want something for me. I want something for me. And that was that was the decision. So I decided to start working as a consultant, and I was supporting charities and helping them with different projects. So I have the experience I have commissioned projects from public health, from the NHS, and from local government for many years. So I knew that many charities were either in the process of tendering to get those or putting grants. So they will call and said to me, can you give us one day just to sit with us and look at this project and look at this tender and see how we can fit a better proposal for health inequalities in this area, or they will work with other areas. So it was beautiful time that I could choose which project I wanted to work with. I really wanted to work with communities. I missed so much when I was working as a CEO, not to be involved with the communities. I think all the answers are if we work with those communities and if we empower those communities to solve the problems themselves instead of telling people to solve their problems. So I allow myself to kind of have that little time of work. The charity sector is really struggling at the moment. the funding had been cut it in many areas. So that moved me to a different path. And I started kind of going more to where can I find a solution to kind of
Mm-hmm.
support the charity sector and the people I believe in and the projects that I believe in. So I am in a completely new process of my life because I just started this limited company. That the first thing that I felt was like I moved to the dark side. How dare I have worked in charity sector and no profit for so long, and now I have a limited company.
Yeah.
So that was I was also kind of working on my own limited beliefs of I can help more people this way. I mean, it's not the dark side. It's just we need to work together. So
Interesting term.
yes, absolutely. So it's a new thing for me. I think the beauty of what I'm trying to offer is to say to them, if you are going to work with communities, if you want to do that process, through a person that has a very different experience of the corporate side that is just looking to do the matching for a tender or something like that. Do it with someone that have that experience. So this is also a new thing, though some days I wake up and they said, oh, this is going great. I think it's very educational. It will change in the next 2, 3 years. And other days I wake up and I said, why am I getting into this? Why am I putting all that pressure on me? Thank goodness I have finished the master now. Just,
Okay.
yes,
Congratulations.
thank you. But I think we are always on that process. We don't just become a little bit more resilient every time. So we only
Mm-hmm.
realize that we are changing when we have really big moments in our lives. But I think we have
Yeah. Yeah.
now we are prepared for a little bit more challenge. Like everything, you kind of learn to walk and then you run, and like everything. I think at this moment of my life, I see the changes in a different way. I think I have created more agency, so I just shorten the times of those bad times or down moments, because I have many of those kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is I
Yeah.
cannot just. I also need to pay for my mortgage. I cannot just sit and wait for this to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that you raise quite a sort of important point there, in the sense that often when we are going through changes of career or changes in season in our lives, there is the practical things that, so you're passionate about the charity sector, but you also need to do something that will help you pay the mortgage, that will help you with the practical side of things, right? But you also said, you know what, we go through seasons, and what you've learned is that you can come back quicker, you can navigate things quicker every time there's a change. So what helps you do that? What techniques, what tools, what's your thought process when you wake up and you think, oh, am I doing the right thing? What gets you back?
I think I have now very clear my priorities in life, which they change all the time. That's the thing. So I have two teenagers at the moment. So I do know that my financial side is important at this time of my life. But I'm also have like 5, 6 years maximum with my children here before they probably start living with friends or leaving the house. So in that sense, I am very aware that that is a priority at the moment for me, to spend time with them, to have a business or to have a job that allow me to spend some time with them. Um, that I need to focus on my boundaries with work, on making sure that my health is important, because as you said, if I am not well, they won't be well. And I notice it very easily. When I am stressed, I make them stressed when they are not stressed. So I think the main thing for me that I have learned is to create those boundaries so I don't let myself go and think about others first all the time.
Yep. Yep. And how does that feel? That's what I'm really curious about, because I know in my own life, when you are somebody who kind of is in a service providing space, and Marcela, you and I both are involved with people who work in healthcare. and organizations that are involved in healthcare. So you're naturally that kind of giving person. What does it feel like to kind of just go, actually, my boundaries are important?
I have to say, some days it's very liberating. I feel like, thank
Yep.
goodness, I need to do this. I need to take care of myself. Other days, I feel terrible guilt. And I think I also have been working with my priorities and my values in many ways for many years. I think the real process started after my divorce, that I kind of, as I said, priorities and values changed through the years. But I had to evaluate myself and say, okay, is this value my value, or is my family's value, or is my cultural value because I'm Colombian and it's a different way to live life, or is my ex-husband value? So I think it's also, I cannot change 21 years that I live in Colombia from a process of one day, but I still feel guilt, and I feel sometimes that I need to be a better mother, or if I go to the gym and then take a long afternoon kind of walking or meditating because I think I need it, I then think I could be doing this email. So to be honest with you, it's a battle. It's much better than before because I have recognized that to create those spaces for me and to be good for others.
Mm.
But it is a battle. So there are days that I feel
Yeah.
that I fully deserve that time that I'm giving to myself. And there are other times that I feel like, no, I feel guilty for doing it. And also there are times that I leave them on the side. And then is when I said that I created that agency now, that I kind of, okay, when you don't look after yourself, that is when everything is started to kind of snowball, is start going. And then I feel bad about myself, or I feel like a bad mother, or I feel like I'm not doing enough for the charities that I'm working with, or I think getting better, but I'm far from have it figured out.
Yeah. I think you're naming what we all feel, in that we are all a work in progress, and we don't have to have it all figured out, and every day is different. But just want to highlight something that you said, which might be helpful to other people, is you said you really question whether something is your value or whether it's something that you've brought along from your family values or your cultural values. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that sometimes we do things because we think it's of value, but it's important that it's our value, isn't it? In order to make it sustainable, it's something that we have to own, not because it's right for our family or not because it's just culturally what we've always done. I think that's a whole podcast on its own. But thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's really important that people stop and question why they are doing what they're doing.
I think it's incredibly important. I think I'm very blessed, and I have a wonderful man in my life and a wonderful partner. But I don't think I would have get to him and much and have that much if I haven't questioned my values before.
Marcela, you're going again into a whole new different podcast. How rich is this conversation? Because if I understand, are you saying that because you did that work on yourself and you kind of questioned why you were doing the things that you were, and was it for yourself? And as that thinking shaped and evolved, that is what attracted your wonderful partner into your life as well, because you had more agency, as you say, and you were kind of exuding that aura
Absolutely.
out.
He is a wonderful person. And once we were talking in a date, and he was saying to me, oh, I wish that I met you 20 years ago, in our 20s, no, in our 40s, or nearly 40s. And I said, no, I don't think so. It wouldn't have been ready for you. And I don't think we would have success at that time. I think we need to be the people that we are now, with the experience and with questioning ourselves and understanding who we really are to be where we are, to be together.
Amazing, amazing. If somebody was listening in and they were in a season that you've been describing, where their career is changing, their personal life had changed, and they were going through that, what would you want them to know, Marcela?
I think For me, the most important thing it was to give myself time and feel comfortable with myself, with my own company. Because sometimes we ask for a lot of opinions outside, but until we don't look at ourselves inside and we are clear of what we are as a person and what is, I will go back to those values. What is really important for you in your life? The why is important, I think, because if you realize after questioning yourself that it's all external, then you give a different meaning to that, and I think that is what it helped me. I will be very nervous to give advice to anyone because I think we are also unique and when we come from different paths. So I can only go for what it works for me. But I think what I always try to get is to the why I feel this way. Why? 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 Because if no, I just find that it's a quick fix and I will feel okay for a little bit, or yes, or just go to the cinema, or just look at my phone and said, okay, I just scroll for a little bit. And yes, of course, it makes me feel better for the moment or for one afternoon. But if I don't go to the why do I feel the way that I'm feeling, or why I'm reacting this way, or why is kind of under, I don't really, I have learned with times to go a little bit deeper and be okay with find all those imperfections and kind of I'm working on loving the imperfections. I'm not so good at it. I get angry with myself, but I'm kinder. I'm kinder. That is what I think. We need to be kinder with ourselves, being realistic,
Yeah.
but being kinder.
Yeah. Yeah. Being kinder to yourself is such wonderful advice, because especially in the sector that you and I both work in as well, and where people want to give to others and they see that as their purpose in life, and just stopping and saying, in order to give to others, I need to first give to myself. I think that's definitely what I've heard from you today, and I'm so grateful for all those nuggets that you've shared that you don't even know that you're putting out there, but they definitely landed with me, and I'm sure that they will land with some of the people that are going to listen into this. If I can ask you, today it's actually a beautiful spring morning as we're recording this. What what would what are you most looking forward to in the season that you're in now? What lights you up about where you are now?
I think from that questioning that I keep doing all the time to myself, I think during the last few months, I have felt that is a more spiritual gap. I grew up as a Catholic. My mother is a Christian, but is not a Catholic. And then with years, I kind of move out of from the all the idea of religion. I didn't feel comfortable in that space, and more than anything, the institutions. But I am realizing now that I do need to work that part of my life. So I'm trying to understand what is the path for that. I try to do meditation. I pray sometimes, even though I am not sure if it's a God or not. So I think in this moment of my life, I'm trying to start those conversations to understand that I know that I have always thought that is a bigger thing than us. But I felt like, okay, I was too busy to focus on that. But I think if I don't open that part, I kind of move forward. What I'm trying to say is, I think to grow further in life, I need to kind of open that spiritual side of myself that I kind of have neglected all these years.
I love that. I love that. That's another whole kind of wonderful conversation, isn't it? Because I truly believe there is more to life than we can see. To tap into that and get to an even higher potential, if you like, we do need to go inward. And from what I understand, I think that's what you're saying, aren't
Yes,
you?
absolutely.
That you want to explore
Absolutely.
some
I
more of
think
that.
think I neglected that part of myself. I cannot just the same way as I put boundaries with my physical health and with exercise and with my mental health and everything. I think I'm really lacking on that area of my life. And I am now that I finally, it's like when you have I don't know if the people that are listening, they have small children. But when you have small children, you are kind of looking at the floor all the time when they are walking, and then when they are kind of 6, 7, that you can say, go and brush your teeth, and then I put you to bed. You start looking at the house, and the house it's falling apart because you've been 5 years looking at the floor. So
Yeah.
I feel like I've been
Yeah.
having. I feel a little bit like I haven't give for granted that I have that structure, that I have that's something that has been looking after me, and I haven't expressed that gratitude. I haven't kind of make that connection. So I think I need to now start kind of doing that in my life.
Amazing. Marcela, having walked, on that path myself over the last few years, I wish you so much joy as you discover that the things that you're looking to discover. And yeah, I can't express how much going that route actually makes me a better businesswoman, makes me a better friend, makes me a better wife, mother. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's everything else, everything else that you said you were looking at, so you didn't look at this part of your life. Actually, I found that when I started looking at that part of my life, everything else got brighter and better and clearer for me as well. So I wish you so much joy with that, Marcela, and I look forward to hopefully chatting to you
Oh,
again about where
absolutely,
you are.
absolutely, and that will be lovely. I listen to podcasts all the time when I'm in the car, when I go for a walk, I think that has changed many lives. The fact that we have that availability to have that knowledge from others. And it's what I said. I don't feel that I know more than anyone, or that this podcast is I'm doing it to mentor anyone or anything like that. But I do think that when you hear people that have gone through similar things that you have been through, you understand that you are not the only one figuring out, and you allowed yourself to feel those things and think, maybe that's what is happening to me. So podcasts have helped me a lot through many moments of my life. So I'm very grateful that you invite me.
No, thank you. And, on that note, I want to thank everybody listening, because every story that we share, I love the idea of people sitting around a story circle, and every story shared is a reminder that life does move in seasons, and there are ups and downs, and the space in between where we once were, what was, and what comes next in our lives. That's part of the journey. Thank you so much for listening to What Was, What Next. Every story that we share here is a reminder that life moves in seasons, and that the space between what was and what comes next is not a failure, but part of the journey. So if this conversation resonated with you, please do share it with someone who might need to hear it as well. Until next time, take care of yourselves in whatever season you're in. And remember, the season that makes no sense today may be the one that shapes the future for you. So embrace it in all its glory. Till next time.